Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey Bharat, how are you?
Hey, good afternoon, Prasen.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very well. I know you were going to go and leave, but I didn't think you were going to go all the way to San Francisco.
Unfortunately, can't be there, can we?
How you been? Good. Have you had your leave? I know you mentioned you were going on leave, or are you still going on leave?
Yeah, well, I'm supposed to be on leave, but you know how our field works. We don't really get that benefit to utilize fully. So, yeah, at home right now. Tomorrow's going to be the last week. So,
Oh, you're on leave now, today.
yeah, I am officially on leave for the last 4 5 days, but that hasn't been the case.
Oh, well, make sure you don't give it to them. Make sure you reclaim those. Can't be working unless it's the best podcast. Definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why I told you that I have no problem with whatever.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll keep it short. So that's no problem. So if you're ready, we'll get this start.
Yes, absolutely.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on what time you're listening to the podcast, viewing the YouTube stream, if I can get my words right. A warm welcome to the Desi Sportscast and the Cricket Show with me, Bharat Keshwala, the amateur, and the main person who teaches me every time I talk to him, and that's Prasan. Good afternoon to you, Prasan. How are you?
Morning to you, Bharat. I'm doing really well. Thank you so much. You're definitely not the amateur. I think you know a lot more about England cricket than what I probably know. But always lovely to have a chat with you every single time we're on the show. So thanks for having me again.
No, absolute. No, you're part of the show and the main reason for the show, actually. And the popularity, especially in Delhi, for Prasan is incredible. People in Delhi, please get in touch, DM us, and we'll be good to get you on the show as well to meet the main man. But we have to start, obviously, with what's happening at the moment in Ahmedabad and the T20 series. Um, Played three. Each team that won the toss has won the T20 quite comfortably. What have you made of the first three test matches?
Yeah, I think it's been a little topsy-turvy for India for sure, especially with the bat. The first match, I think we just managed to put on something a little more than 120. In the next match, it seemed completely the opposite, with Virat Kohli going all guns blazing and putting up that half century, which eventually took us over the line. And in the third T20, again, it was all the story about how Kohli was batting really well and he didn't really have too much of support. So it's been a little topsy-turvy. I think the other batsmen certainly need to find their way in the lineup. Having said that, I think Ishan Kishan batted splendidly well in his debut, and you must really be happy because we've spoken multiple times about these youngsters. Ishan Kishan, Rishabh Pant, Sanju Samson, obviously. So good to see that Ishan made most of his opportunity of his debut, but of course he failed in yesterday's match, and that's just going to be a part and parcel of T20 cricket, I guess. But certainly there needs to be a lot more accountability for the batting. On the bowling front, I think Shardul Thakur and Chahal both have bowled a little off guard. They haven't looked very consistent, which is probably going to be an issue. I'm not. I'm probably guessing that Chahal and Deepak Chahar. I mean, sorry, Shardul Thakur might make way for Rahul Chahar and Deepak Chahar tomorrow.
Yeah, and I was going to come to you that because it's a big game for India tomorrow, must win if they want to stay in the series. But in terms of the three games, we said it on the show before that this is going to be a much tighter game, much closer game. This is a very, very good England white ball team. I did say that they have prioritised winning the T20 World Cup. Their planning is, in terms of the rotation, is all around that and the future series against Australia. So we knew it was going to be a tough team to face. And obviously, being the holders of the 50 over game, we know their pedigree. But in terms of the pitch, it's not made it into a close encounter in any of the three games. Is it down to the pitch, or is it just one of those things in T20 that the team batting second or the team that wins the toss seems to? Uh, how do you judge the conditions there, and how much have they impacted on the results? Because they've not been close games.
Yeah, I think apart from that one ball that viciously turned for Chahal yesterday,
Mm.
there hasn't been much on offer. To be very honest, I think the Pacers have enjoyed the surface a lot more than the spinners. Spinners haven't got considerable amount of spin that we saw in the Test matches. I think that's to do with the fact that obviously on the first day, especially in the evening session, you won't have the pitch crumbling up or cracking up. And of course, the pitches. Tended to after every single match. So you pretty much have like a fresh pitch with every game. And the Seamers, have done a splendid job for England. Yesterday we saw how Mark Wood made an impact right from the first ball. He got KL Rahul out early, and then he got Rohit Sharma out, and then he got Shreyas Iyer. So I think Mark Wood and Archer have bowled really well. Archer's been a tad unlucky, I guess, but obviously I think that's what's missing from the Indian contingent. We don't have someone who's bowling at a raw pace. Inside, we have people bowling medium pace, like Bhuvneshwar. We've got Shardul Thakur, Hardik Pandya, who are all bowling medium pace and sort of trying to depend on their cutters more than using extreme pace. And I think that's been the real difference. England yesterday made some real quick incisions with the raw pace. We saw how effective Mark Wood was in particular. So that's something that's definitely missing from India's bowling attack. And I think, unfortunately, the only person who can probably bring that into the side is Navdeep Saini with the pace that he offers. But of course, to remove someone like Bhuvneshwar Kumar probably won't be possible. So only Shardul Thakur is going to be the only candidate, I feel. So the pitch isn't to blame because obviously this is T20 cricket. It lasts for only around 3.5 hours. So the pitch really won't have much of a say in these T20 matches.
So you don't think the toss has been that crucial? It's just the way we batted or England have batted when they batted in that the game that we won and posted that score.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the depth of resources in England is something to really marvel at. Because Obviously, if you see, Ian Morgan has 6 to 7 choices for bowling. The batting goes down all the way until Jofra Archer. Moeen Ali hasn't even got a chance in this whole series. So I
Mm.
think the depth is very, very good for England cricket. And I think even Virat Kohli mentioned it in the press conference before the series even started that England are favourites to win the T20 World Cup. And obviously, that's he didn't say it just for the sake of saying it, because if you see the resource yesterday, England were two down, and Bairstow and Butler finished off the job for them. And that's what this whole team is. They're always going to have their choices. They're never going to be short of resources, and I think that's where India will sort of need to figure out where they stand, because experimentation and all that aside, they'll still need to figure out their 11. Obviously, there are two debutants there in Surya and Ishan Kishan. So for them to sort of figure out their main 11 before the World Cup, which is going to be held in India, will be very crucial.
And you talk about the lineup of England and how strong it is, but we've always talked about our bench strength and how good we've the number of players we've got in pretty much every position. So I'm still a little bit surprised at this experimentation. Especially at the opening, we've had three different sets of openers in the first three games. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm not too sure that we should be experimenting, or do you think? I mean, I think we've got a lineup that, based on the IPL that we played late last year. I know we've got another IPL coming up. Should we be in a position experimenting at this stage? England aren't. They've got their team. They've got their plans in place.
Yeah, I think in some sense, obviously, IPL has been a big influential factor into the Indian cricketers coming into the into the Indian squad, so to say. Because if you see, Rahul Tewatia came into the side on the back of a good IPL. Rahul Chahar came into the side on the back of a good IPL for the Mumbai Indians. Ishan Kishan and Surya Kumar obviously coming in after a good IPL, and of course their domestic performances as well. So in some sense, obviously, IPL is a very, very big yardstick for the players to sort of make the jump from just franchisee based cricket to representing the nation. And obviously, with so many choices and so many options, for the management to pick from, it becomes hard to sort of nail down your 11. And given that this is going to be the only T20I series before the World Cup, I think they want to try and experiment with different combinations, and that's fine. I mean, obviously, players who come and represent the nation, they're selected purely on the basis that these players are ready to go. They've been molded into these international level cricketers. And Ishan Kishan also mentioned it, in the press conference right after his debut match, that he's sort of uh, developed into this cricketer who can face this raw pace and this international level bowling at the nets while playing for the Mumbai Indians. So in some sense, I think they're molded cricketers. They're ready for the big occasion, and it's just a matter of taking the opportunity with both hands and making sure that you perform to sort of make justify that faith that the selectors have in you.
But I still don't understand, the chopping and changing. Like I mentioned, three different pairs for the opening slots. Can you justify that? Why they're not going with, just for the sake of argument, with the tried and tested Rohit and Shikhar for the three games, and then maybe see where we are, and then maybe try somebody else like KL or Ishan, even though it paid off. But I just don't understand the experimentation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when Kohli mentioned right before the first T20I that Rohit and Rahul will be your first such openers, all media outlets, including ours, we reported the same thing, saying India have found their opening partnership. They're not going to look beyond it, but then they chose to rest Rohit for the first two matches. So that obviously gave an opportunity for someone else to come and grab that spot at the top. And Ishan Kishan did a great job. In the first match that he played, he opened, and he did a fantastic job scoring that 50. But having said that, Shikhar Dhawan again on the benches. He has so much of experience. He's India's go-to man in terms of ICC tournaments. So it's a surprise. It's a little surprising not to see him play. But having said that, with Rahul's string of low scores, I mean, it'll be hard for him to sort of justify that selection. But he's the top-ranked T20 batsman, so obviously there's no looking beyond him in some sense, and I think he'll be back to continue. So I don't see too many changes for the fourth T20I except in the bowling unit. So at least in that sense, I think we'll see a little stability in the roles that are given to the batsmen.
And then if you're Surya Kumar, you finally get a place in the first 11. You don't get a bat, but then you're dropped for the next game. How would you feel?
Yeah, I think it's pretty sad. Obviously, there's not much that can be said about apart from that because obviously Surya's waited so much for his chances. He's made a couple of gestures here and there in the IPL that have really prompted fans to sort of push the selectors even more to pick Surya in the side. And he didn't even get a bat, did he, in his debut match? He dropped a catch first, and then he took a catch which he almost dropped. So it wasn't an ideal match for him in some sense, but that's what international cricket is. You can't take anything for granted. You need to live life by the highway. I guess you can't really choose any other path, and you need to take whatever chance comes in your way. And unfortunately for Surya, obviously he bats in that middle order, so for him to sort of come in at that number four, number five, I think they preferred Shreyas Iyer only because he had a lot more experience and he has been in the Indian setup for some time. So it's definitely hard on Surya, but I'm sure he'll know better than anyone else, having waited for so long, that that wait is something that he'll probably have to endure for a little bit longer.
But do you think he deserved to be in the squad yesterday? In the team, not the squad. He is in the squad, but in the starting lineup because, like I said, we've not seen him. I know we've seen him field, but we've not seen him bat. Or
Yeah, I mean, I think the only scapegoat that could have been chosen was Surya because Ishan Kishan had scored a half century. You couldn't drop him. Shreyas Iyer obviously has been a part of this Indian T20I setup for a long time, so he couldn't be dropped either. And
KL.
Rohit and Rahul were anyway the designated openers before India decided to rest Rohit the first two T20s. And I don't think there'd be too many people who want to drop Kohli. So if not for those five, then the only other two options they're left with are Hardik Pandya and Rishabh Pant. And obviously, Hardik Pandya, he's been picked for his bowling abilities as well. So that just leaves you with a chance to drop no one else. And Surya was the only scapegoat. So in that sense, I think it was an obvious choice for India, but obviously it's a little harsh on Surya.
So in terms of obviously it's a must. Well, I say a must-win game, but just to stay in the series, there's not much else riding on it. It's not going to affect the World Cup in any way. But in terms of the lineup tomorrow, from what you're saying, it'll be Rohit and KL opening, with Ishan still keeping number three, or do you think he'll open and they'll change the batting order with Kohli, Pant, and Pandya obviously nailed on?
Yeah, I think it'll just be a change in the bowling unit, in my opinion, because Chahal has sort of blown hot and cold. And so has Shardul Thakur. They haven't really justified the opportunities that they've got. And I mean, obviously, Chahal is a great spinner. He's India's leading T20 wicket taker. But that aside, form is obviously a huge concern, and they might want to rest him for the next two matches and see if someone like Rahul Chahar or maybe even someone like Rahul Tewatia can bring to the table. Because I think in India all of us thrive on PR, and if Rahul Tewatia gets a game, then that just means that there's a lot more to talk about. So I think they might want to try Rahul Tewatia. He's also been putting a couple of social media posts saying one ball at a time and sort of poking. Or sort of creating thoughts in everyone's mind, thinking he might play. So it'll be interesting to see if Rahul Tewatia plays because obviously he's also an additional batting option. So if that's the case, then they might look to bring back, Surya Kumar Yadav at someone's expense. Maybe if they're okay to drop KL Rahul and probably push Ishan Kishan back at the top. But again, that would be too much rejigging. So I'm not sure India would want that, considering, like you said, it's obviously a very, very important match in the context of the series. So I just probably see a couple of changes on the bowling front.
Do you think Bovies will carry on and you'll have Chahar, um, Sundar, and Tewatia? Is that how you're going?
I guess so because I mean, all of us I think know how fond of Chahal Kohli is. So I'm not sure if he'll be willing to drop Chahal after three matches because obviously he's not in the scheme of the Test team. But if you're talking about T20Is and ODIs, then Chahal is India's leading spinner. So I'm not completely sure if they might drop Chahal, but just to make sure that others also get their chance and. For the whole sake of this experimentation term that the Indian management's been using for some time now, I think they might just probably look to give Chahal a rest and get someone like either Rahul Chahar or Tewatia.
Just to clarify, you don't think the toss is crucial in these games?
I'm not sure because again, T20I cricket is very, very fast moving, and obviously, uh, India, or in specific, Kohli really loves chasing, and whenever he has a target in mind, he goes about it with precision. So I think the England bowlers have done a fantastic job. Ian Morgan's rotated his bowlers really well. When a new batsman's come in, he's opted for that raw pace in the form of Archer or Wood, and he's done a fantastic job in his captaincy. And the way he's led the team is probably a lot better than what Kohli has done. So in that sense, I think it's been great. And to be very honest, I think Kohli certainly hasn't got support in the batting front. Apart from that one knock from Ishan Kishan, the other two batting performances have been below par, so to say. So unless the Indian batsmen find a way to counter this England bowling unit, we might just see England running away with a slight advantage.
I'm glad you wrote in. You mentioned Kohli there and his batting because we've got a couple of comments from um, Abhishek. Thank you for watching the live stream, Abhishek, and thank you for posting some questions that I'm going to put to Prasen. Abhishek is saying the problem with India is our captain. Kohli panics. And he's also gone on to say, and I have to repeat it, is there that he doesn't expect, especially to you, this comment is applicable, that he doesn't expect any IPL trophy from him even after 5 years. Strong comments regarding Virat.
Yeah, obviously, IPL is looked at as obviously India's biggest, not India's, the world's biggest domestic, I mean, T20 tournament. And it's no surprise that
Do you
when
think
a
he
captain,
panics?
yeah, I mean, I think in my very humble opinion, I feel the real issue with Virat Kohli is that he expects a result of every delivery, and that's not something that you might want as a player in the side, because let's say, for example, a bowler is bowling and he gets hit for a six. That's what T20 cricket is all about. Yesterday we saw Chahal came on to bowl, and the first ball he got swatted for a six by Butler, and behind the sticks you could see Rishabh Pant backing Chahal, saying the ball was really good, landed in the same spot, and he's probably going to get stumped out. And Chahal sort of darted the ball in the next delivery. Butler came down the track, but he could just hit it to mid wicket. And that's when Rishabh Pant said something like, this is the perfect ball. He's going to get out. So, but if the cameras pan on Virat Kohli, he's going to have that look of anguish on his face. He's going to have that sort of, why you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? So I think he's a very reactive captain, and he's not someone who has obviously in T20 cricket you are going to get hit. You're probably going to miss a couple of runs. We could see yesterday, even with that, the perfect example is the way Rishabh Pant got out. There was absolutely no need to take that third run.
Yeah.
Virat Kohli, I mean,
A
we know,
bit too
we all know that.
aggressive.
Yeah, we all know that Kohli is a gazelle between the sticks, but when you're considering someone else, not to say that Rishabh Pant isn't quick between the stumps, but he's obviously not that reactive, or he's not that instinctive of running between the stumps as Virat Kohli is. And Pant was always going to be short of his mark. In fact, he didn't even make the television screen, and Sam Curran had years to take off those bails. So, in that sense, I think Kohli is very, very expective of things that need to go his way. And that's probably the reason why sometimes players are pressurized to deliver. That's just my opinion on this.
Yeah, and I think I saw some comment about he was very, you could see how angry he was with some fielding by Charlo that
Yeah.
gave England an extra run. He does wear his heart on his sleeve. He is obviously extremely passionate. Wants to win, like you say, not every game, but every single ball he wants to be on top, and that can work two ways. I mean, I like that aggression in Indian players, and we've talked about it before. We never used to have it. I like it, but there is a thin line in terms of where how that impacts on younger players or new players into the team, whether it adds to the pressure on them already. But I suppose these are questions that are going to be asked when the team loses. But there's, I mean, the talk that was around after the IPL, Mike Rohit, the captain of the white ball team. I hope that doesn't come back. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, Kohli is obviously someone who really brings that passion into the team, and you can see that with every single team that he captains, be it the Test side, be it the T20 side, be it RCB, any single team, and Kohli is absolutely on his feet. He backs his players. We saw that even with Mohammad Siraj, when he came and complained about that racial abuse that he got in the Test series, Kohli was right there behind him. And when he had that altercation with Ben Stokes, again Kohli was the man who was taking everything and sort of handling it. And even when Ishan Kishan scored that half century, every single shot that Ishan played, Virat Kohli was there with him, patting his back, celebrating the shot. And so there's always that passion, that Kohli drives onto, or sort of the players take over from Kohli with the way that he sort of exhibits himself on the field. But having said that, again, expecting a result out of every single ball
Mm.
is probably not the best approach, especially in T20 cricket, because bowlers obviously don't prefer the format only because they get thwarted all over the place.
Yeah, yeah,
Unless you're a certain Rashid Khan, I mean, even Rashid Khan, for that matter of fact,
yeah.
gets hit all over the place at times.
Mm.
And even he's someone who's very reactive. You'll see with every ball that he plays, he tries to irk the batsman. He tries to get into a laugh or get into like a conversation. So these type of players are always good for your team, but expecting a result out of every single ball is something that Kohli should probably tone down a little to make sure that the players are comfortable around him.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I said, I love that aggression and the passion. Like I said, we've not had it in the past, but all these younger players coming through, they are of that mold. So sometimes, they might cross the line, but that's only how much they care about India winning. But I take Abhishek's point. The one I'm going to disagree with is I think, especially because I know your love of RCB, that I don't think it'll be another 5 years before they win the IPL. This is your year, so we'll see. But in terms of looking forward to the T20 World Cup, how different will the pitches, the conditions? We don't know. I mean, it's going to be played around India. We know that. In terms of the general conditions, will they be very different to now, or will they be similar?
I'm guessing it's going to be a little different because obviously we're in the summer right now, and obviously dew is playing a big factor towards evenings. And of course, when the World Cup comes around, it's going to be around October, November. It's going to be a lot cooler for sure. Players will need to adapt a lot more than what they are right now. So again, it completely depends on where they are going to play the World Cup. The venues haven't been decided yet, but I think the IPL in some sense is obviously going to be a dress rehearsal for the World T20 with the five centers that have been picked. It's going to be interesting to see how these matches go on. With no crowds, also, obviously there's not much to fear. Otherwise, if they were considering crowds, that be issue of needing to deal with them and needing to sanitize the ball every single time and those sort of parameters. But with the first part of IPL, not the early part of IPL rather, not allowing crowds. I think it's going to be a test of how these grounds can sort of make sure that the matches go on as usual. And if and when crowds are allowed into the IPL at some point, then it's again going to be a bigger test for BCCI to figure out how they're going to keep crowds in the World T20. And if the bio bubbles go on very well, and as per the centers that have been allocated to each team, it's certainly going to be a gala event. But having said that, it's going to be very tough. The players will certainly need to work a lot on their fitness because it's going to be cold at that point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But we say the IPL will always throw up players, but I think, do you think he'll? I think it'll be too late for any player that has a fantastic IPL to go be in contention for the World Cup, because I think the squad is pretty much set. Because don't forget, we're missing Mohammad Shami, Jasper. Congratulations to him, by the way, on his wedding. And Ravi Jadeja, they'll probably walk into the first 11, let alone the squad. But or do you disagree with me that somebody could have a absolute amazing IPL and they'll be forcing themselves into the squad, if not first 11?
I'm not sure if there's anyone like that who's probably on the fringes who's not been on the team yet, because probably the only choices would have been Surya Kumar, Ishan, and Rahul Tewatia after the season that they had. So I can't really think of anyone else who's probably on the fringes of the team and can really get into the Indian team on the basis of a very good IPL season. So for Surya and Ishan to have made their debuts, obviously after a very good IPL season and domestic season, they've been rewarded. Probably the only other option would be, Varun Chakravarti, who offers that
Mm,
mystery spin. And he did make the T20I series squad against Australia, but he had to pull out because of an injury. Also, let's not forget Natarajan isn't a part of this T20 squad because he's
mm,
recovering at the NCA. So There are a lot of players who are injured, players who have taken a break, and all those sort of things. So this IPL season will certainly determine which players make that squad. But I don't think there's anyone else who's going to have an outside chance of making the team.
One player I did want to move on to, and what does he need to do to get into that team? Because he's had an amazing tournament. The 2021 Vijay Hazare Trophy should be called the Prithvi Shaw Show. What an amazing tournament he's had. Amazing run of scores. I think he was solely responsible for Mumbai winning this trophy for the fourth time, I think it was. Incredible performance. But what does he need to do to get back into the national team in whatever format?
Yeah, we're hearing reports that Prithvi Shaw might be recalled for the ODI series against England, which is going to start in Pune,
All right. Okay.
along with Prasen Krishna as well, who's been a great bowler for the Kolkata Knight Riders and obviously for Karnataka in the domestic circuit. Obviously, look, Prithvi Shaw, 8 matches, 827 runs. I think he certainly had that anger in him, that desire to score runs and sort of silence his critics. He did put up a couple of Instagram posts after the tournament ended with a couple of memes and singing songs and all that. So good to see that Prithvi Shaw's in a very very good mental space. I think at least going by what's on his social media. It's hard for him. He had a very bad IPL season. He was in and out of the team. He didn't have a great Test series. He was dropped. And then he didn't even feature in the England series. So for him to sort of put all of that behind and make sure that he scores tons of runs to silence his critics and at the same time to attract the eyes of the selectors again, he's done a fantastic job. And I'm not sure I'm not too sure if he's going to be in the context of selection for the T20 World Cup because we have too many options. We've got Rohit, we've got Rahul, Shubman Gill's obviously there as well, but he hasn't made the squad yet. Shikhar Dhawan's there, Ishan Kishan is now there. So for Prithvi Shaw to sort of make the cut in the T20 format is going to be very very tough. But if he has a very good ODI series, if and when he gets an opportunity, I think that'll be a very very big morale booster for him on a personal level.
Do you think he can bat anywhere apart from opening?
I don't think he's batted anywhere else. So he's a purebred opener, like someone like Rohit Sharma. Of course, Rohit Sharma was promoted to open in that series, but I'm not sure if sorry, I'm not sure if there's space anywhere else either. Because if you look at the team, there's Shreyas Iyer, there's Virat Kohli, there's Hardik Pandya, Rishabh Pant. They are all very crucial members of that middle order. And now with Surya Kumar Yadav and Nishan Kishan also coming in. And it's going to be very very tough for Prithvi Shaw to bat anywhere else in the order, let alone the opening position.
Yeah, and it just goes back to what we've been saying on a regular basis: the talent that we've got in a lot of positions. Because let's not forget your own man, Devdutt. I'm a big fan of his, as you are, but his time will come, and I think you called it out that this is the future opening lineup with Kishore and Devdutt. So that'll be an incredible opening pair to look forward to. But in terms of the Vijay Hazare Trophy as well, your boys lost in the semi-finals to Mumbai. They posted a big score, 322. But with your batting lineup, did you think you had a chance?
Absolutely. I think the opening partnership for Karnataka was going all guns blazing until that semi-final. They were scoring runs in heaps. I think both of them had got a string of very, very high scores. Devdutt Padikkal, 4 consecutive centuries. Samarth had hit a 192 previously. So obviously KV Siddharth was also among the runs. So it was a case of needing to battle out the first initial few overs to sort of negate that new ball threat and carry it on until the 30th over. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. We lost Samarth early, and after that it was only left to Devdutt Padikkal and KV Siddharth. But unfortunately, they couldn't do much either. Despite Padikkal, sort of trying to up the scoring rate and scoring very quickly early on. So, but these things happen. I think the Karnataka squad also has a lot of depth in terms of talent that is available. So this is a huge learning curve, especially for some of the youngsters like Vaishak Vijay Kumar, who made his debut. There's also B.R. Sharath, who kept throughout the tournament and played a very, very good knock in the semi. I think it was a 29 ball 61 that he hit. Unfortunately, I mean, even some Sharath, for that matter of fact, is an opening batsman, but he had to play low down the order because of the quality of resources available in the Karnataka team. So a lot of positives for Karnataka from that Vijay Hazare. Unfortunate that we sort of couldn't go all the way and lift the title, but quite a few positives, and hopefully we'll come back stronger in the next domestic year.
Yeah, absolutely. A good tournament for your boys. A very good tournament for me. A surprise team, but you're going to tell me different, and that's Uttar Pradesh going all the way, deservedly, all the way to the final. For me, as an outsider, it's not a state that I would immediately go to when thinking of the powerhouses of Indian cricket. Were you surprised by their performance, or is this something that UP are known for? Doing well in tournaments and getting through to the latter stages. And because I was trying to think of famous cricketers from UP, and I'm going to get a lot of criticism for this because there's probably loads. But what did you think of their performance and cricket in Uttar Pradesh generally?
Yeah, I think a lot of credit should go to the way the IPL has sort of improved the cricket not only on the international level but also on the domestic scale. Because currently, I think we also spoke about it in the previous show that a lot of these youngsters who play domestic cricket eventually want to play the IPL. And for them to want to play the IPL, they'll have to perform well in tournaments like the Syed Mushtaq Ali, Vijay Hazare, and a lot of these youngsters also go back to play these tournaments once they're done with the IPL. So that means that a lot of the eyes are also on these domestic tournaments, and that just means that the talent and the quality of cricketers across the country increases. So the IPL has a huge role to play in the way domestic cricket is growing in India, and it's good to see a new team, in the final. Unfortunately, Karnataka couldn't make it, but Uttar Pradesh making it without the services of Suresh Raina, I think, is a great compliment or a great underlining factor for their rise as hopefully a very good cricketing state. They've got so many good players coming out. Bhuvneshwar Kumar's from there, Suresh Raina, as we mentioned. So they've got some very good cricketers, and hopefully this one season will be a mark of very good things to come from them as well.
Yeah, and I was just looking up some players that I should know of. Obviously, you mentioned Bhuvi and Suresh and Praveen Kumar, Kuldeep Yadav. The list is there, but it's good to see them playing in the final, and they posted a really good score. But they came up against in-form Mumbai team once again. But yeah, it's good to see cricket expanding even more to the other states in terms of the talent that's coming through. I only wish we could field two teams internationally. I think we've got enough clout in the ICC, and we should be able to field a B team because we've got enough players in all three formats, as we said. To put out really good teams, but we'll see if we can get to that stage. It's a shorter show than normal, but absolutely enjoyed it. A lot of information, a lot of insights. But one final thing: can we win the T20 series?
Well, it's always a matter of hope, isn't it? We certainly have the team to do it. Obviously, England are doing extremely well in the terms of the squad balance that they have and the way they've been playing their cricket. But I think a few early wickets up front will certainly make sure
Yeah.
that the Indians have a little bit of an upper hand. The same thing happened with Karnataka as well. They lost early wickets in the semi, and after that it was all a matter of Mumbai running through. So I think if India managed to get Josh Butler, Jason Roy, and Johnny Bairstow early, I think the others in the team might face a little bit of pressure because they haven't batted too much. So I think for India, the key will be to pick early wickets and for the batsmen to make sure that they don't try too many rash shots early on, which is probably the mantra for T20 cricket. But hopefully they learn from their mistakes. There are two more matches to come, and we can still win the series. So hopefully they put up some good performances, and we go through all the way, and we see Kohli lifting that cup.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've not lost a T20 series for a while, so let's keep that run going. And I think what you said is spot on. We need those early wickets, get into the English middle order as soon as possible, because if they get a start, they'll get a score. Fantastic, Prasan. Thank you again so much for your time and insight. Really enjoyed talking to you. Have a safe and enjoyable week ahead. And obviously, we'll catch up very soon again. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks again. Thanks for having me. Lovely to chat with you, and see you soon. Take care.
Take care, my friend.